The film begins its narrative in Australia, painting a picture of a dystopian future set in the year 2053. The narrator informs us that following the aftermath of the most recent war, the crime rate has skyrocketed, increasing by more than 800%. This surge in criminal activity has led to an overwhelming strain on the prison system. To alleviate this pressure, the government has implemented a new rehabilitation program known as The Box. This program offers prisoners two options. They can either serve their sentence in solitary confinement or volunteer for immediate execution. Once a prisoner is placed in the box, they are only provided with food and water at the discretion of law-abiding citizens. Any attempts to escape or assist others in escaping are met with severe punishment, often resulting in death. The scene then shifts to a French woman who finds herself confined within one of these prison boxes. She appears to be battling to survive without access to food or water. At one point, the hardship becomes so unbearable that she reaches a state of complete despair. In her desperation, she retrieves a small razor blade hidden in a corner of the box and tragically ends her own life. The narrative then takes us to a rocky island where numerous prison boxes are located. A young girl and boy are seen playing with a rubber ball near these boxes. The ball accidentally hits one of the boxes, awakening prisoner 371113, a code that seems like a typo for lead, inside. Upon regaining consciousness, she discovers that her hands and legs are bound. In a state of panic, she bangs on the walls of the box, pleading for release. A small screen inside the box then lights up, displaying a woman who informs her that she has been found guilty by a jury and sentenced to 7 years of rehabilitation without the possibility of parole. The woman further explains that her food and water will be provided solely at the discretion of the citizens she has wronged. Upon hearing this, the prisoner breaks down, screaming and crying, insisting on her innocence. The following day, prisoner Lee wakes up and attempts to request water by waving her empty food container. However, her pleas go unanswered. She then begins to inspect the box, hoping to find a way to escape, but each touch results in an electric shock. As the days pass, survival becomes increasingly difficult. Meanwhile, in another prison box, prisoner 135558 is seen searching for a way to escape. During her inspection, she accidentally triggers an alarm, causing a red light to flash. This results in a sharp metal rod descending from the ceiling, which gruesomely impales her. The next morning, prisoner Lee is awakened by a young woman who provides her with a small amount of food and some water. Lee tries to convince the woman of her innocence, but the woman informs her that her fate will be decided by the citizens. She also tells Lee that she is neither the first nor the last prisoner they will have. Following this encounter, Lee spends several more days subsisting on the meager food and water provided. However, one day, she is overcome by a sense of hopelessness and despair. In her desperation, she retrieves a rope from the floor and attempts to end her own life. She begins to strangle herself until she can no longer breathe, but at the last moment, she releases the rope. Unable to understand why she has been subjected to such a fate, she breaks down in tears. As time passes, prisoner Lee comes to terms with her sentence and finds various ways to distract herself from her grim reality. She spends her days looking out through a small hole in the box and sleeping. One day, she manages to reach outside the box and retrieve the rubber ball. This serves as another distraction to help her pass the time. After a few weeks, a drone relocates her box to a different location, which turns out to be a forest. Now, she has the opportunity to watch birds. In the following scene, we are introduced to another prisoner, identified by the code number 1180102. He has been sentenced to 5 years and has already served half of his sentence inside the box. After enduring 2.5 years of confinement, he has come to accept that his punishment is justified due to the repercussions of his past actions. One morning, prisoner Lee is approached by a girl dressed in blue. The girl asks her what she's doing, to which Lee responds that she's serving her 7-year sentence. The narrative continues with the girl initiating a conversation with prisoner Lee, asking if she is familiar with the works of William Shakespeare. When Lee admits that she isn't, the girl offers her a book to read. However, Lee declines the offer, stating that she is not allowed to read during her rehabilitation period. In the course of their conversation, the girl asks Lee to come closer, after which she holds her hands and recites a few lines from a Shakespearean play, bringing a sense of comfort to Lee. After their interaction, the girl gives Lee a small bag filled with food pellets and bids her goodbye, promising to visit again. Following this encounter, Lee feels a sense of human connection that she hasn't experienced in a long time. Consequently, she lies down on the floor and touches herself, ignoring the fact that her actions are being recorded by the CCTV camera. Later, while eating, Lee discovers a miniature book hidden within the food packet. She turns her back to the camera and opens the book, only to find out that it's a copy of a Shakespearean play. Subsequently, Quickly, Lee uses the water she has saved to clean herself, preventing infections from her body wounds. She then pours the used water outside through the opening. The CCTV camera captures her wasting the drinking water, and as a result, she is transported back to the seaside. Sometime later, the same civilian girl from earlier visits Lee and asks her about the reasons for her imprisonment. Instead of answering directly, Lee asks the girl how the citizens decide whom to feed among all the imprisoned people. The girl admits that she simply walks among the boxes, converses with the inmates, and provides them with food. She asserts that she tries to reach as many people as possible, but the bad weather often hinders her efforts. During their conversation, Lee tells the girl that she reminds her of her deceased younger sister. As her confinement continues, Lee finds solace in the miniature book, which she regularly reads while hiding it from the camera. A few days later, the drone transports her to another location. There, she is approached by a citizen who taunts her by eating a juicy apple in front of her. Overwhelmed by extreme hunger, Lee pleads with the man to show her some mercy, but he rudely refuses, stating, "It's my apple." He further asserts that all the prisoners should be executed without any mercy. However, he is willing to offer his apple under the condition that she allows him to fulfill his desires, even though this is against the law. Driven by starvation, Lee reluctantly agrees to his condition. She then removes her underpants and lets him have his way. In the midst of this illicit transaction, a patrolling drone spots him and instantly opens fire, killing the lawbreaker on the spot. One of the bullets hits Lee's leg, causing her immense pain. Despite this, she manages to reach her arm outside and retrieves an apple from the deceased citizen. She immediately devours it, but to her dismay, the fruit is infested with worms, which causes her to vomit. That same night, Lee is awakened by a blaring siren, and a voice informs her that she has violated the prison rule by agreeing to trade for food. This violation results in a punishment, 7 days of insomnia, which the voice claims as the first and last warning. As a result of this, the subsequent days become unbearable for her, because every time she closes her eyes, a loud siren sounds along with flickering lights. In a desperate attempt to stay awake and avoid the punishment of sleep deprivation, the prisoner resorts to self-harm by banging her head against the wall. The lack of sleep eventually leads her into a state of hallucination, where she sees a regal figure that resembles her own reflection. After enduring 7 days of sleep deprivation, her punishment finally ends, allowing her exhausted mind to rest. She ends up sleeping for several days straight. One night, she is awakened by the sound of fireworks. She gets up to look outside and sees the sky filled with colorful fireworks. It turns out that the citizens are celebrating the new year. In honor of this event, an amnesty is declared for the prisoners in isolation boxes, excluding those who are politically convicted. Thus, the prisoner, referred to as Lee, continues to serve her sentence. One day, an elderly woman approaches the prison box and engages in a conversation with prisoner Lee. She shares her own distressing experience of enduring 15 years in a similar confinement, revealing how it shaped her into a resilient yet bitter person. She then throws an old rusty razor blade towards the prisoner and leaves. In the following scene, prisoner Lee is once again visited by the same girl who is a fan of Shakespeare. At first, the prisoner thinks she is a hallucination, but the girl assures her that she's real. She then offers her some water and recites another passage from a Shakespearean play. Despite the encounter being brief, it provides some relief from her ongoing suffering. The narrative then fast forwards to a few months later, where we see that prisoner Lee's belly has grown larger. We learn that she is now pregnant with the baby of the man who offered her the apple earlier. During the night, the Shakespeare enthusiast girl comes to prisoner Lee and expresses her desire to rescue her from captivity. However, the security system detects the interference, triggering an alarm. Sensing the imminent danger, the girl quickly leaves, after which the alarm stops. The next morning, a citizen approaches prisoner Lee and asks if she wants mercy. When she affirms, the man points to another prison box at a distance, which appears to have been burnt down as a form of mercy. Seeing this, she refuses to accept such mercy, choosing to continue her miserable existence instead. As a few more months pass by, prisoner Lee goes into labor. After enduring the pain for a long time, she finally gives birth to her baby inside the box. The moment she holds the baby in her arms, she feels a sense of joy that makes her forget the pain she has been suffering for years. However, her happiness is short-lived as the security system immediately senses an extra life in the chamber. As a result, it releases a gas that acts as an anesthetic, rendering her unconscious. By the time she regains consciousness, her baby is already gone. This prompts her to cry out in desperation, screaming for her baby to be returned. However, as usual, her pleas go unanswered. At one point, prisoner Lee's box is hit by sea waves and a rainstorm, causing it to fill with water. As the chamber gets flooded, she starts shivering from the cold. Additionally, the security system malfunctions due to the water, perceiving her presence as a violation of the confinement. Consequently, the authorities outside, who are completely unaware of the real situation, issue a warning that if the interference is not cleared within a few seconds, the prisoner will be exterminated. With the countdown underway, the prisoner struggles to avoid drowning in the rising water. Soon after, the countdown reaches 0, and the patrolling drone arrives to transport her for extermination. But on the way, the drone is struck by lightning, causing the box to plunge into the sea. In the final scene, we see some citizens playing on the coastline when they notice a prison box that has washed ashore along with prisoner Lee. Despite this, they choose to ignore it and walk away from the scene, leaving the unconscious prisoner behind. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.